a little bit on the title of the club there, Smiley. I just am so excited about what we just saw. And really, it wasn't just, watching that playoff and Akshay Bhatia winning, but it was just sitting down, flipping over to Golf Channel once the ABC coverage concluded, waiting about to the second segment, and watching you hit Friday bunker shots. That was the icing on the cake that I needed for this Sunday. But man, oh man, I just, for me, let's just kind of start big picture before we start unpacking the playoff and the specific players. But that is one of those standout, when you look back at a year of professional golf, that's one of those events that stands out in bold of just the whole day had excitement, entertainment, the conditioning, as much as it may have bothered some of the players, just really produced a result that was just top tier. It was a fun Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I will say that Thursday and Friday at Bay Hill was as hard as I've ever seen it. And to see what Daniel Berger did, now Thursday morning, I think there was about a shot and a half disparity between kind of, it's not necessarily waves of tee times with only 80 guys playing, but what Daniel Berger did on Thursday and Friday, that's going to be some of the best 36-hole golf we see throughout this entire year. I mean, the golf course was insanely hard with the firmness of the greens, how fast it was, all of the wind and the crosswinds that they were dealing with. So man, he brought it right from the get-go, and it's just so difficult to win wire to wire on the PGA Tour. It is. He had his hands on the trophy every single night, and all the way until the end, until all of a sudden they were announced that Akshay Bhatia is the winner.
I on Friday, which, by the way, this is a little bit of a detour, but I think it's a necessary one, because as daylight savings, as we've sprung forward and we're entering golf season.
Congrats, by the way.
Hey,
handshake.
Congrats to you. Congrats to all of us. And we had a high 70s day here in Durham, North Carolina on Friday and Saturday. So it was the return of Golf Fridays for Charlie Hume, which was just glorious. So good to be out there in shorts, like working a little bit of a sweat up. But I headed into the Ross Girl after the round, right? Put the coverage on, trying to catch up what's happening. I'm looking at the TV. I'm like, do you guys have the right channel on? Is this a re-air? Like, Daniel Berger's 13 under at Bay Hill? Like, this cannot be right.
It's got to be 2006.
This can't be the correct tournament. But then you look at those greens and they look like an Aspen ski slope. You're like, no, that's correct. That is, they're playing that tournament this week in Orlando, Florida. And so actually, before we talk about that playoff, this is actually where I want to start. Is a little bit on Bay Hill. You sent me a picture on Saturday of those greens. I just laughed out loud. And I saw Scotty Scheffler on the 10th green on Saturday after a missed putt, turning to Ted Scott saying, it's not even putting on grass. We heard JT talk about it on Friday after missing the cut, saying there's zero chance they're going to be alive on Sunday. So we were in the group chat with Jackson, and I said to you, I need your power rankings for baked out / white / crispy Bermuda.
I've changed that, by the way. I've changed my list.
So I need top 3 on the PGA Tour, top 3 in the majors, and this is a work in progress on the creative, but I think we're calling these the Smiley Snap Crackle Pop power rankings, or the Snap Crackle Pop meter. We'll work on that.
Okay, so PGA Tour, I don't think much has changed with that list, but I've thought more about the major championship list, because I feel like you need 2 separate categories here for crispiest. So what defines it? So crispy means when you're walking onto the green and you're going to fix a divot and you put your putter down and it's sliding. Like, you can't get any friction on these greens. When you put your putter down, you can't keep it square. That is the element of crispiness we're talking about, like a crunchy potato chip. That's kind of where we're at here. What type of weather helps this, right? Typically drier weather, windy conditions typically or I would say play into more of a crispy type of green as well, and make it to where these guys are dealing with just ridiculous putts. So I'll start with Bay Hill on the PGA Tour. Okay. I think that's the easiest place to start. I mean, basically with Santa Claus's white beard on these greens, that's the color that they were looking at all week.
It's Christmas and March down there.
Yeah, as I kind of think about other really crispy greens, my mind takes me to Memorial can get that way. Now, bent greens, I think, do not quite as good of a job of being like super crispy, but when we're talking about quickness and just guys being scared of putts, I think we're talking PGA Tour events, like
Yes.
when greens get past that 13, like that's Memorial.
That was going to be my follow-up question is like, is crispiness only Bermuda? But it sounds like it's not. Crispiness can be bent as well.
It can also be bent. I would have to go Memorial. Quail would be my next, but when they play that, it's overseeded, like wall to wall. It feels like it doesn't quite get that crispy, which is why I'm actually going to change that answer there from Quail, although it feels like that could be the correct answer, to when you get a dry Torrey Pines. So let's say
that's Poe. So you're now giving us all three grasses. I like this.
My mind goes back to last year's Farmers Insurance Open. Do you remember the chaos that was happening in the greens that week?
Yes.
It was windy. It was Poana. It was dry. When you get the Santa Ana winds that come down through the valley. So that was the wind direction they were getting. It dried out the Poana greens. Not a ton of rain, obviously, leading up to it. And those greens were crispy. They were crispy. So I gave you all three there.
That's bonus points to you for giving us a Bermuda surface, a bent grass surface, and a Poana surface. So those are your tour rankings. Now, remind me your major championship venue rankings, because that's
changed too.
Okay,
it's changed. All right. I think it has to start and end with Chambers Bay.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do you remember the Billy
100%. Yes.
I mean, so you got bumpy Poe that is rolling. I mean, just the Dustin Johnson putt that comes to mind. How softly he hit that putt and how far it went, and it's just doing this.
Is that the crispiest? I'm trying to think, like, if I'm thinking of all-time crispiness just in my collective memory, either that or the year that Phil Mickelson stopped a ball rolling off the green to Shinnecock.
You led me to my next one, Shinnecock.
Okay. Shinnecock Hills. Excellent submission. And
I haven't been on property there, so I'm gonna have to go see it for myself. But
to see it this year.
I think I just dislike fast bumpy Poe so much that's gonna be number one for me. But they've lost a green or two at Shinny over the years. You know, in the famous Zach Johnson quote of they've lost the place. So Shinny's gonna have to be up there, and then the last one's gonna be Augusta.
Wow, golly, we are amateur grass nerds, but we're grass nerds nonetheless on the show, and there's just something about talking about greens that are borderline and then watching it play out this week that just really just makes you feel like golf season's here.
Augusta's bent. Augusta's bent, and those typically when they get crispy, they get purple, like the color changes. And that happened to me on Sunday at Augusta. Unfortunately, I got out there that next day. Putter's not quite as crisp to the ground. Color of the grass changed. And I putted not very confidently. Actually, results show that too.
That's if you want to go back and watch the film, you can watch it in full to the 2016 broadcast.
And we're going to send you over to the 2016 Masters. So see you back in a minute.
See you back here in a second. I like that. I think that was an excellent debut for the Smiley Snap Crackle Pop. Those are the power rankings. And then I think we'll come back to this throughout the year as a meter of like, where do we land this week on the meter? Like what Bay Hill on a 0 to 10, was this like an 8.5 this past week, this most recent playing the API?
Before the rain on Saturday. Yeah, they were 9. It was 9-1.
I love it.
Yes.
9.1. All right, we have our first official ranking, 9.1 for the 2026.
A little less after the rain. Like from the rain on Saturday afternoon until Sunday, I would say they were more like an 8-1.
Great. Okay. We've established the first. This is so bad. I was going to say speaking of anchoring, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I didn't say it.
If you wanted to talk about the Akshay anchoring stuff, you came to the wrong place.
Wrong podcast.
We don't know. Like clearly he's not anchoring, but I'm sure that everybody thinks that he might.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the man of the hour. Akshay Bhatia is 5 shots back at the turn today, and then he makes 4 consecutive birdies with the aforementioned broomstick. He gets to 16. Joe Griner hands him a 6-iron, asks him to hit the best 6-iron of his life. He does just that. He said he went in and his that's right. You were standing there ready to interview Daniel Berger. Cara Banks, that was what he said to Cara Banks on that green after winning. Hit the bed. Joe asked him to hit the best 6-iron of his life. He almost holed it out for Albatross. He makes that eagle putt. He made 144 feet and 7 inches of putts on Sunday, and a stat from Justin
did almost
Justin
half
Ray,
of them on 11.
I mean, yeah, that 50-footer. He the most strokes gained short game, so around the green plus putting in a PGA Tour win in the ShotLink era. The second highest number was Patrick Reed at the 2020.
Wait, his was the highest?
Actually, it's the highest. Gains 16.3 strokes this week. Patrick Reed had the previous high mark, gained 15 strokes in Mexico in 2020. So first the strokes gained putting, first the strokes gained around the green this week. And again, we just talked about it on extremely challenging greens that created visible frustration for a lot of guys. And that saved him in a lot of ways because he did not have a good week off the tee. So
better on the weekend. Better on the weekend.
Better on the weekend, but missed a couple greens to start the day today. Looked a little shaky, and you're kind of wondering, hey, is Berg going to run away from this thing? Is Ludwig Oberg going to be involved? And then Akshay works his way back into it, plays great in the back, and obviously wins this tournament. We were texting again as we were kind of coming on the stretch, and I was a little bit of a prisoner of the moment there after that make on 13, trying to remember the last time I'd seen a putter this hot on a Sunday. Like, do you have any comparisons you can make off top of head of just watching a guy like that who needs to make a bunch of putts to get in the mix and does it over and over and over again, and also some crucial saves as well?
Gosh, I've watched a ton of golf, and I wish something just popped in my brain straight away. I'm sure I'll think of something later, but nothing straight away has come to my head. But it's incredible, man. He willed himself into contention with his short game, his putting. But I think, too, like when you look back at the beginning of the week and how difficult Thursday and Friday played, the fairways were firmer. The wind was definitely blowing. It was an issue Thursday and Friday. Guys were really struggling to hit the fairways because they had gotten so firm. And he hit 9 fairways of his first 28 attempts. So I went back and looked to see, like, all right, where was the issue? Like which way was he missing it? And at the end of the week, when I tallied up the difference between left and right, he had double the amount of right misses than he did left misses, and a majority in the first.
Cut the ball, right?
Yeah, he missed 18 fairways to the right. He missed 9 to the left. So I mean, just crazy that he missed that many fairways. But he basically had 50% of his fairways on the week. And if you'd have told me at the beginning of the week that a guy that lost 3.5 strokes off the tee at Bay Hill won the golf tournament, I said, what in the world happened? Because this place has been well known for how well you have to hit it off the tee, hit fairways. It's the only chance you have. But it also makes it a fun spin to in an argument that you could say that any type of player can win here. You see guys that absolutely just are bombers that have won here. Guys that are like Russell Henley that are short knockers that hit a bunch of fairways. Now you have a scenario where you have a guy who's ironed it well and then just unbelievable around the greens. And that was enough for Akshay to win. Now, I did mention that he did drive it better on the weekend. He hit 9 fairways both rounds, which I think is good, for a guy that plays golf. And if I hit 9 fairways, I'm pretty dang happy with that. So obviously figured something out on the weekend with the driver because it wasn't too big of an issue. But man, just he willed his way into contention with that broomstick.
Yeah, it's funny that you phrase it in that way because that's often what we say heading to next week at Sawgrass. It's like there's no profile player that necessarily fits this place. We've seen certain runs of trends of guys that fit a profile win, but really anyone can show up at the Players and have a chance of winning the tournament because you can do so many different things well to win that tournament. And for this week, to your point, it did kind of fit a profile for a while, but I think the thing you take away is that it's not like it's necessarily an outlier as much as it's, are you going to let the state of those greens really kind of defeat you or bamboozle you or just wear you down, or are you going to kind of be up to that task? And Akshay, above and beyond, putted extremely well, and also to put himself in places to make those putts with the wedge game around the green. I mean, that alone is a Herculean task, like what he had to kind of overcome to surmount that sort of adversity, and he goes out and does it, and that's the only way he's going to win that golf tournament, with the stats, to your point, as bad as they were to start the week.
Yes, and the only other thing to mention about Bay Hill and the way the golf course played. So yes, there was rough, and it was up, but I've seen this place with much worse rough, where it's 5-inch rough, an absolute chip out anytime you miss the fairway. So it's been a colder winter, and they had some rain that came in over the last week to kind of help get it growing a little bit. But from what everybody had told me is that the blade just wasn't quite as thick this year, and you didn't quite get the height at times. And I think when you look back at this golf course and when players miss the rough, typically it's close to a half a shot penalty when you miss fairways out here. And this year, let's say if it was close to half shot, it was probably half of that this year. Guys were able to somehow keep the balls on the greens this year coming out of the rough with lies that were somewhat doable. And in the past, like, you're just like lucky to be able to get something close to the green. So I think that benefited Akshay this week clearly, because with the amount of fairways that he did miss and the fact that he didn't have a ton of chip outs, at least that I could tell, that he was able to advance everything up around the green and keep control of the golf ball. That was something that benefited Akshay.
Akshay has now won all three of PGA Tour wins he's notched have been in playoffs, which is a kind of insane stat just to get his career started on this tour. And I just was trying to think about this and sum up, where we are with his career. And I'm thinking back to when we had Luke Clanton on the show a few weeks ago, and we're talking about Akshay as an amateur. And there's a sort of general feeling of, hey, if he shows up, he's going to win this tournament. And I'm just thinking about, however we want to categorize this, clutch gene or aura or self-confidence, just this sort of assuredness that Akshay seems to have in these moments where you really need to be able to produce under pressure. Where does Akshay rank for you against his fellow pros already, even as a guy who's one of the younger ones on tour?
Akshay's won it at every single level. Now he skipped a level. He skipped the whole amateur level, the college level.
Or the
But
college level, yeah.
you know, he was getting into the high level amateur events as a junior golfer and competing and playing well. Did he win the Jones Cup? Did Akshay win the Jones Cup?
Let me look that up while you.
I feel like, why do I think that he won that? While you look that up, I'll just incredible what type of player he's been for a young age and have the confidence to go and turn pro, and just kind of take your lumps early. It's been fun to kind of see his progression as a player. You know, when he came out as a young kid, you know, having an opportunity to meet him as a 17, 18-year-old to now a 24-year-old and a much seasoned player, and to see him kind of take his lumps. You learn a lot of lessons on the road, but I've always felt like he's handled himself like a pro. He's got a lot of belief in his game, and I think Akshay, he's a cool customer. That's the thing that always impresses me, is that he's not afraid to hit shots, has a ton of belief in himself, and I think he truly believes that he can be the number one player in the world one day. And I think that's the confidence that he showed today.
Akshay did win the Jones Cup, and I'm going to give you one guess as to how he won it.
Probably not with a broomstick.
In a playoff against Davis Thompson at Ocean Forest.
Which How about that recall? How about that recall?
Pretty incredible, because that's a home game for Davis Thompson. So that's a nice little win for him. Yeah,
dude,
so,
winning the Jones Cup at that age, like, this is that. For those of you who don't know what the Jones Cup is, it's an event played in February at Ocean Forest, which is a really difficult golf course that time of the year. Windy, tight, and for the most part, you got to just be an absolute ball striker. So Akshay's had that since he's a young kid. He's always had a great golf swing, good mechanics, and he just keeps him getting better every year. You know, every aspect of his game seems to improve. He's a great long iron player. I still believe for him to take the steps that he needs to, I still think that he needs to become a more accurate driver of the golf ball. I think at times he curves it so much with his irons. He gets so much feel, being able to shape it both ways. But with the driver, it feels like he's always in 3-wood. It's just kind of fighting the right formula of something that he can just hit on repeat. But man, you know what? I just thought about this too. We think about the shot he hit at 16, but we haven't even talked about the shot he hit at 6. Going for the green in 2, hits a hybrid out into the water. Like, he had a couple putts that he made early. Just the fact that he was able to keep himself in the golf tournament, man. Like, as soon as he
100%.
hit in the water at 6, I was like, oh, Akshay's out of this thing.
Dude, he could have doubled the first hole today. Like, I mean, there were a lot of putts where when you go watch the highlight reel, of course they're going to show you all the birdies he makes because they have a 90-second time limit on the highlight reel. So, but for good reason, they're showing you those putts. But there were so many other
7-footer at 1, 7-footer at 1 and 2, 6-footer at 4, 12-footer at 5. I mean, those are crucial putts, man. And those are, like, when you look at the percentages, right? Like, those aren't.
There was, what was the stat? Like, there was a really good stat that they kept saying on the broadcast.
Like, the one at the end of the day, like how
it was
on
like
the
he made
16,
like 40%
17,
of his 40% of some rate that, like, the rest of the field was converting at 14%.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, like, I it's bad. I'm forgetting the stat, but it just indicates, like, that is a chasm, between him and the rest of the field. And I thought too, if you look at the story of the day and you look at other guys like Ludwig Ober, I think was 3rd in strokes gained approach, 5th in strokes gained off the tee, looked fantastic, but there was so many putts, and he wasn't negative strokes gained putting, but there were so many putts where he just narrowly misses one he could make to be in the tournament. And all of a sudden the story of his day, he's tied for 3rd, right? Or Cam Young, had lots of opportunities, narrowly missed, hit the ball great, but just misses out on a tournament that he could have been in the mix and or won. Whereas Akshay is making all of these putts and more to both keep himself in the tournament and then eventually tie and take the lead and win this thing in a playoff.
144 feet of putts is just insane to me. I'm looking at, like, so I'm going to count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He made 7 putts from the 6 to 12 foot range. 7 putts from 6 to 12 feet on a Sunday. Like, that is insane. That is insane. All right, here's one more stat for you. On 16, 17, and 18, I'm sure you may have heard the stat throughout the week. Like, if you add up the amount of total putts that he had from Thursday to Sunday, do you know the answer?
No.
13 total putts on 16, 17, and 18 accumulative throughout the week. The only time he had a 2-putt was on 17 today.
And that one burned that edge. We were both watching that. Like, he might have flipped it and made birdie, and then
that would have been.
Oh.
Nobody would have. I can't imagine in history that anybody's ever done that anywhere. 16, 17, and 18, one putted every single day. Like, that is just stupid.